Hey, welcome to V-Twin Life is brought to you by a few great companies. One being Crash Inc. Clothing. You can find them out of Oregon. Great company specialized in clothes, doing work on bikes now. You can check them out at crashinclothing.com. They got a lot of great stuff. Hey, head on over there. Maybe they got something you like. And we can't forget Wild Ass. You like pounding miles, you like riding, you want to be in comfort? Hey, maybe strap a Wild Ass under your ass and ride with an air cushion and be comfortable for hours. And can't forget Custom Dynamics, leading the industry in lighting LED technology. Man, these guys got some great stuff. So head on over to Custom Dynamics and check it out. Now, let's get to another milepost of the V-Twin Life. Hey, what is going on, everybody? Thanks for tuning in to another Sunday here in the V-Twin Life. We got a good friend that I'm honored we became pretty good friends, done some riding together. This guy Frank, everybody knows Frank. Mr. Watch Out For Us does a lot of riding. He's always posting some great pictures. And tell you what, when you go riding with this guy, and it's comical to see him we're going through corners. I remember in Monsters Over Mountains, Frank's leaning off the side of his bike. He's snapping pictures and, does a lot of photography stuff for his Hawk chapter. And just an amazing guy, a great friend, and a guy that just absolutely loves riding. So let's bring Frank into it. What is going on, buddy?
Hey, just having fun. It's been about 8 months or so since we talked about doing this, so it's about time I'm on here.
I think it's been longer than that, but
Maybe.
It's been a while.
Yeah, I was kind of nervous to do this, but we've been chatting it up here, so here we are.
Well, it's a lot of fun in a way. It's almost kind of like you're face to face. I mean, granted, we're not sitting across the table or sitting around a fire somewhere enjoying it, but in a way, you can be face to face through the great technology that we have now through the old interwebs, and it's a lot of fun.
That's right. Enjoying a cup of decaf coffee for my neurologist orders. So, cheers.
There we go. I got the old 10 barrel for right now, but yeah, coffee will work too. I like coffee in the mornings.
Yeah. Well, people ask me with decaf, what's the point? But you still got to have something warm. You got to, enjoy the flavor some days. So.
I still gotta have coffee. I mean, coffee is coffee. I mean, granted, decaf's not quite the same, but when a guy likes coffee, you like the flavor of it, and that's what you want.
It's just the habit. Just keep something there. Yeah. So I used to drink tons of regular coffee, tons of soda, but just keep the tradition going.
There you go. So let's kind of dive into this how I like to with a lot of people. So where did motorcycles come to life, Frank? Where did you find life on two wheels?
Well, that's a kind of a strange question. I wasn't really around motorcycles much when I grew up. My dad, I don't even remember when it was. I might have been 10 or 12 years old. My dad bought a old Honda 90. It was red. I remember, I think it might have been a CL 90 or something like that. I know it had the little, like a girl's bike, little crossbar in the middle. That was my motorcycle experience when I was younger. I was never around dirt bikes. I didn't do a lot of riding. I remember staying home sick from school and then sneaking out, sick and doing figure eights in the half acre in our backyard. So that was it. That was my riding experience in my early years. When I turned 18, I think I bought my first road bike. It was a Kawasaki KZ250 LTD. I don't know why I remember that. It was never a long-term bike. I think I had it 2 summers, but I rode that thing off the lot with no experience whatsoever. I had no idea how to turn the thing in a corner. I had no idea about counter steering. The first time I tried to turn on the highway on a corner, I was like, holy crap, I'm going the wrong way. So I learned. I never took a class or anything. To be able to get a license on that thing, I had to borrow a friend's Honda 750 because I wanted, at that point in Washington State, you had 3 different classifications of license for motorcycle. One was up to 100 cc, then up to a 500, and then if you took your test on something over a 500, then you got an unlimited. You could ride anything. So I didn't want to take a test on a 250. I took a test on the 750, and I was able to ride anything. So.
Yeah, I remember right. You had the M1, the M2, and the M3 was all motorcycles.
That's right. So yeah. I ended up with the M3, luckily. The first time I took my motorcycle test on that bike, you had to do a quick stop. and I put too much front brake. There was a couple of pieces of gravel there, and down I went. And if you go down on the test, you fail. You're done. So yeah, that was my walk of shame, was leaving the parking lot of that testing place facility for the DOT. But I didn't give up. I went back and passed it and rode that bike until I moved to New York. Back in I think I was 19. I went for a job with a church that I belonged to. Moved to New York and didn't want to take my bike with me. I wasn't crazy enough at that point to try to ride a motorcycle in New York. I lived about 10 minutes outside of New York City line on Long Island, on what was laughingly, not really laughingly, but seriously called the world's largest parking lot, which is the Long Island Expressway. When I moved to New York, I sold that bike to my brother, so he took it over. Spent 5 years in New York. After coming back to Washington from New York, when I came back from New York, we had our first child in New York. So when we came back to Washington, my wife and I, the family kind of took over, and motorcycles wasn't really a part of it until my next door neighbor a few years later wanted to sell a Honda 450, and I think he wanted $500 for it. So I bought this Honda 450 and rode that. What's weird is I don't remember getting rid of that bike. Honestly, I have no idea what happened to that bike. I don't know where it is now. I don't. I rode it for, I don't know, 1, 2, 3 years. I can't even tell you right now. But again, my wife wasn't real fond of the idea of me riding. I would take our 6-year-old son on it occasionally, just around the parking lot, or the alley up and down, and she didn't want anything to do with that. So the bike kind of went away for 24 years. I had nothing to do with motorcycles for 24 years. Then in 2017, I started getting the itch again. And I decided finally, well, let me back up a little bit. I have a brother in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. He is the managing partner of Smoke and Harley-Davidson. So for years, I've always had Harley stuff. Christmases, birthday, all of that. I would get Harley t-shirts, Harley hats. So I always fit the part of a Harley guy. So I decided in 2017 that I was going to fly back to Winston-Salem and buy a bike for my brother and then ride it home. 24 years off a motorcycle, I was going to ride 2,600 miles home on a bike that I'd never been on before. Sounded like a good idea anyway.
Heck yeah.
The day I decided I was going to buy the plane ticket, I had lunch with my dad here in Yakima. I live in central Washington. What am I, 5 hours away from you, 4.5 hours away from you, maybe?
Yeah, right around there.
Yeah. So my dad and I are at lunch, and I get a phone call, and it's my son who was using my car. He's like, "Hey, Dad, is it normal when I put the car in gear that nothing happens?" It's like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Well, drive and park, or drive and reverse, nothing's happening." So long story short is the transmission was done in that car, and my motorcycle down payment and my whole financial resources at that time went to buying a new car. I didn't want to rebuild. It was I think a 96 Ford Taurus or something like that. It wasn't much of a car to begin with, but I needed transportation. And so the motorcycle budget was gone. What was that? That was like March of 17. And then August of 17, I get notification that my brother in North Carolina and my brother here in Yakima, he lived in Selah at the time, were going together and buying me a motorcycle. And they wanted to know what I wanted. It's like, "What do you mean you're getting me a motorcycle?" It's like, "Yeah, just don't worry about it. Just tell us what kind of riding do you want to do?" It's like, "Well, I just want to go back and forth to work." And we live about 2 hours from a town here called Leavenworth. Denver, you're familiar with Leavenworth.
Oh, yes.
Leavenworth is a Bavarian-style village in the Cascade Mountains. It's a really cool town. But the ride to Leavenworth goes over Blewett Pass, and Blewett Pass is full of twisties. And when I've driven it many times, and I've always thought, hey, this would be fun on a motorcycle. And I mentioned to my brothers, I might go to Leavenworth on it. I might do a little bit of highway riding. You never know. So they got me a 2009 Sportster XL 883 Custom, which was perfect for me. I thought it was the perfect bike for what I asked for. It came September of 2017. It cost me $200 to get it put in my name and licensed. And that was it. That was my entire expense to get that motorcycle, which was awesome. Thank you, my brothers. Ray Perry, smoking Harley-Davidson, Paul Orlando here in Yakima now. It's amazing. Couldn't believe that they really actually loved me, because I was the younger, obnoxious little brother that they couldn't stand when we were kids. So, but yeah, that Sportster changed my life, you could put it. My wife still kind of resents the fact that they did that for me. In September, when I got that bike, I rode it constantly. I rode it all through the winter with no heated gear. We had a mild enough winter that I was pretty much able to ride. I think there might have been a 2-week stint where I couldn't ride at all because of snow on the road or ice. But I put like 5,000 miles on it in the 6 months before I actually purchased a Road King. I realized that I was riding way too much. 300, 400, 500 mile days on it on occasion. And it's like, hey, I need something a little more comfortable. So the Harley dealership here in town had a 2012 Road King Classic that I fell in love with immediately and bought. I actually cashed out some money out of my IRA to just pay for that thing so I wouldn't have to finance it. And the Road King and I became inseparable. We went everywhere. I'm not one of those guys I don't name my bikes. It's a means to an end type thing for me, but I loved that bike. Right after buying it, that was April of 2018. I planned my first trip to Sturgis on that. A buddy of mine and I were planning on, or he was planning on going to Sturgis. And I was like, well, I've got one extra vacation day, so I'll meet you there. I'll leave on Friday, meet you on Saturday, and come home on Sunday. So people here in my Hog chapter, which I joined Hog right after I bought that because the dealership paid for my membership with Hog, and the local chapter was only like $15 or something like that. So I joined Hog at the same time. But the trip to Sturgis, my Hog brothers and sisters, well, a couple of people in particular, it's like, that's impossible. You can't do that in a day. It's like, well, yeah, I've researched it. There's an association called Iron Butt Association. People do that all the time. So I left Yakima on Friday morning, rode 1,017 or something like that miles, found a hotel in Gillette, Wyoming, which is 113 or 117 miles from Sturgis. So I did the Iron Butt, my first of many Iron Butts, to Gillette, and met my friend in Sturgis the next morning, rode around with him all day, went back to the hotel in Gillette Saturday night, and rode home Sunday. I was gone, I think 56 hours or something like that, and I rode 2,800 miles. So that began my love for long distance riding.
That just knocks off a couple more questions I already had planned to get into. So just keep taking my notes, Frank.
Okay. Well, what else do you want to know? What else is on your notes?
No, this is great. No, because that's kind of was where I wanted to lead into. It's like kind of where did you find the passion for long distance and kind of what got you tuned into the IBA. So no, this is awesome, man.
Yeah, the Iron Butt Associate. What's funny is before I got my Sportster, my wife and I took a car trip. We went to, we did, I think it was 28 states. We were going to visit my brother. We ended up in, all over the Eastern Seaboard. We ended up in Winston-Salem, drove to Orlando. We went to Disney World, and then then we went down to the Grand Canyon and then home. So I think we were 7,200 miles or something like that on the car trip. But while we were in North Carolina visiting my brother already had the idea of giving me the bike, and he kind of wanted to test me to see if he thought I could handle a motorcycle. So he wanted to take me out for a ride. He, being the dealer principal of the Harley dealership, he could just take any bike he wanted home. So he had this Street Glide CVO that he was riding at that time. And his personal bike was, I think it was a 99 Fat Boy, beautiful bike. But he had me ride his Fat Boy, and he took me out on these back country roads through North Carolina, through the Winston-Salem area. And again, I had not been on a motorcycle in 24 years. That was the first motorcycle ride that I had been on in 24 years. And I was freaked out by it. I was scared. I again forgotten about counter steering, and I could turn right okay, but my left turns were sucky. And he didn't realize it, that I was like nervous the entire ride. We were, 50, 55 mile an hour corners and stuff. And the whole time I was freaking out. When we finished that ride, he must have realized that, or I must have passed his test. Let's put it that way, because he ended up buying me the motorcycle later. But I told my wife that night, I don't know if I want this. I don't know if I can do this. This kind of scared me. So cut to 3 months later, when the bike showed up, and then everything changed, because I got right back into it. But that I wasn't sure if I really wanted to do that or not. I can remember that feeling of, wow, this is a lot. So, but the Fat Boy was kind of a fun. I've ridden one Fat Boy. I almost bought a Fat Boy when I was looking at the Road King, but the Fat Boy doesn't scare me anymore. But anyway, so that's that.
You went from the Sportster to a Fat Boy, then a Road King?
Well, I rode my brother's Fat Boy.
Okay.
Just on I don't know, we might have gone 40 miles. Mm-hmm. So, again, I think he was just testing me to see if I would pass his safety test, to see if he would buy me the bike. Right. Because he and my other brother were probably at that point already talking about doing this for me. It was a surprise to me. I didn't know about it until I think 2 weeks before they shipped the bike from North Carolina. So, and then it took 5 weeks for the bike to arrive. So it was about.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah. But my bike came from my brother's dealership in North Carolina. It was a trade-in that he had. So
that's not the one you're on now, is it? That was
that's the Sporty that I still have.
Oh, okay. The Sporty.
That bike is very sentimental to me, because it was a gift to me. It'll be handed down to I have a 17-year-old son, Jacob, that now that he's 17, doesn't want to ride with dad, but once he's not in a hurry to get a driver's license either yet, but once he gets a license, he has expressed interest in taking over the Sporty. So that Sporty's earmarked for him. But right now I use it as my backup. Or I've also told, last year, one of my hog chapter guys, his Ultra was down for about 2 months, and he used my Sportster for the 2 months he was down. So I use it. It's very sentimental to me, but I've got no investment into it, so I'm willing to share it with people that need it. So
that's cool.
Yeah. And it's funny because, big guy, little tiny bike. He was happy to be able to keep riding, but he was happy also to get his bike back and not have to ride that thing. But,
I'm sure
it kept him riding. So I even offered it to you.
This is true.
Yeah. But, and, people wanting to learn to ride motorcycles, I offer it to them. It's a good learning bike. It's light relatively. It's like, what is it? 600 pounds, maybe?
Yeah, maybe.
If that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So people that are wanting to get their license but don't have a practice bike, I've offered it to them. One guy, he was the service rider at the local Harley dealership, had to sell his bike to buy his engagement ring. And I told him, anytime you want to ride, just let me know. You can borrow the Sportster. So he called me up one day. And he said, you know what? I do have a ride, and it's a very special ride. I want to go propose to my wife on a motorcycle, or to my fiance. So he came and borrowed the Sporty, did the proposal on my bike. So
hey, that's super cool.
Yeah. Yeah. But I rode the Road King, the 2012. It had 14,800 miles on it when I bought it. I bought it with a 3-year ESP, extended service plan, from Harley. Um, the month that extended service plan expired, I'm not a wrench. I don't service anything on my own. In fact, there's a funny story that I'll get to in a second. By changing my own oil on that thing, I stripped out the oil plug. Okay, I'll tell you that story now. I was on an iron butt to Sturgis. This was 2 years ago. And I knew that I had the stripped bolt, but I thought I had it tight enough. Okay, I thought. So on my iron butt, 1,000 miles from here to Sturgis, I went over Lolo Pass, which Highway 12 from Orofino, Idaho, basically up to Missoula, Montana, is the people have seen the sign. What does it say? Curves for 99 miles or something like that.
Yeah.
It's a very famous sign. But Lolo Pass is nothing but corners following the name of the river, Clearwater River, right?
Yeah, the Clearwater was the North Fork on the north side, and I think it's South Fork on the other side.
Yeah. Amazing road, one of the best motorcycle roads around, in my opinion. But I did Lolo Pass, so all of these corners. I got onto I-90 cruising at 88 miles an hour. I usually do 7 or 8 miles over the speed limit. The speed limit there is 80. So I'm cruising at 88 miles an hour on my cruise and taking a few corners. There's this one corner that I felt my rear end kind of wiggle a little bit. And I'm like, what the heck is going on here? So I took an exit, looked under the bike, and there is oil sprayed everywhere under that thing. And I looked at my oil plug, and it had started backing out all the way. So
Oh shoot!
I'm like, oh no, what am I going to do here? So I put it back in, kept going a little bit. It did it again. I got a little squirrely. So I ended up going to a parking lot in Laurel, Montana, which is just west of Billings. Ended up draining the oil and JB welding that oil plug into my oil pan. Had to wait for the JB weld to dry. So it had according to the instructions, I needed 4 hours or so. So I slept. I Hoka Hay styled it right there, or Iron Butt Hotel, whatever you want to call it, on the sidewalk at that O'Reilly's Auto Parts while the JB weld dried. In the morning, I filled it up with oil and finished to Sturgis. That was like 800 miles into that iron butt. So that was one of my, I think, three iron butt failures that I didn't get to finish. But I cannot believe that I didn't lose that oil plug and crash through all of those corners on Lolo Pass. That could have been catastrophic. Yeah. But the whole underside was, even the sidewalls of the tire were covered with oil. It's like, wow, that could have been bad.
You got lucky.
I very, very much so. So back to my original story. I rode that bike for the 3 years. And when I traded it in for my 21 Road King, that bike had 93,000 plus miles on it. So from 14.8 to 93. So yeah, I rode it a fair bit. So. Oh
yeah.
When I joined Hog in 2018, I just looked today, and I have 180,565 Hog miles in 5 years. So
that's pretty impressive.
Yeah. Last year was officially 43 plus, but again, I loaned my Sportster out for a couple months, and that guy rode it maybe 2,000. So I had 41,000 miles last year. I'm no Hopper or I'm no Ken Andrews, but I ride, I have fun.
Hey, but I mean, that's still, if you look at the average, a lot of people, especially, get online and look at bikes for sale and look at the very minimal amount of miles they have.
I know.
I mean, you're riding 43,000 miles. That's an impressive year. I mean, that's awesome.
I have fun. Like, that's all I can say. When somebody says, man, that's a lot of miles, like, I have fun. I don't, that's my only response. I have fun riding my ride. So, and there's been some interesting rides. There's been some rides that I kind of regret attempting, and but most of them have been fun.
That's all. It is finding your limits. Or sometimes you look at some of those. Hey, maybe I can do that. And you push yourself to a challenge, and then you're not human if you can't. Not finishing one or two, three is, I don't know. I think that's human. I mean, everybody, we all got to fail at something. You can't do everything and make every one. It just shows, what, you're human, and we do what we can, but you still ride your ride. You still have fun.
Yeah, knowing limits is part of doing it. If you like, bailing out of a ride because of safety is paramount. Because if you can't finish a ride safely, then you shouldn't be doing the ride. And I was attempting. I've got the Four Seasons Iron Butt certificate, which is all of the solstices, both solstices and both equinoxes. I've done a Saddle Sore 1000 on all four of them. You can see right here, that's my most valued Iron Butt certificate right there. You can't really tell the detail, but that's my Santa Sore 1000. Christmas Eve 2019. I did 1,006 miles without heated gear. Well, I had battery powered heated gloves that lasted maybe 6 hours through the ride. Temperatures ranging from maybe 29 to 42 throughout the whole thing.
Burn.
I suffered on that ride. I'd never been that cold on that ride. I got home and I could hardly move. I was just aching. Oh man. So that's the only Iron Butt certificate I have framed, and I keep it here at work. I'm at my work right now. This is not my home office or anything like that. I'm at my work, so I can do this a little bit more comfortably than just having my phone. But
yeah, because Toby coming, you must be retired. I'm thinking he thinks for all the miles you ride, but no, you're not retired.
Everybody asks me that question. Am I retired? And that is an absolute no. Believe it or not, this is no lie. I do an average of 56, 58-hour work weeks during the summertime. Right now, I'm only in the mid 40s, but I'm a workaholic as much as a bikeaholic. So that's one of the things that happened when I got the Sporty is for my entire adult life, that's my only outlet was work. And I finally had something that I could do outside of this place. And I say this place because I am at work. To have something that I could invest energy in other than my job was a big game changer for me. My family kind of regrets that a little bit. I know my wife might be watching this at home right now. I know that she feels left out most of the time because she does not partake in any of my riding with me. She hates driving places, so there's no way she's going to get in on a motorcycle to go anywhere with me. So I've done all of my riding either by myself or with my son. So he's 17 now. So when he was 12, he used to love riding everywhere. We've done some amazing trips together. One of them was, again, spur of the moment is kind of my thing. I asked him one day if he wanted to go camping in Glacier National Park, about 800 miles from us here, I think. So this was a Friday. It's like, or this is a Thursday. It's like we could leave tomorrow morning. We could get to Glacier. This was last summer or the summer before. I can't even remember when it was. It was the first year they required reservations, whenever that was. If you get there after 5 o'clock, you don't have to have reservations. So I said, if we leave at such and such a time, we could get there right around the time that they start letting anybody in. So we did. We got there half an hour early, and we were able to do Going to the Sun Road. This is all one-day ride. Again, 800 miles from here. We get there half an hour before Going to the Sun Road opens. We get up to the top. We hike. There's a hidden lake up at the top. I don't know if you've ever been to
I haven't, no.
Okay.
I want to.
Up at Logan Pass, you park in the parking lot, and then there's a trail that goes to Hidden Lake. It's a mile and a half or something like that, uphill. I mean, it's quite the hike, but it's a beautiful view of this hidden lake. So we did that. We get back down. Again, we didn't get there till 5 o'clock, and it's an hour ride up to Logan Pass, and then it's a 2-hour hike. So by the time we get done, and we wanted to go the whole Going to the Sun Road, so we went all the way down to St. Mary's on the other side of the park, We didn't get there until 8:30, 9 o'clock. Well, it was probably before that because we made it to a restaurant in St. Mary's. Yeah, it is stunning. It's awesome. Hi, Robin. We've never met, but I've heard a lot about you. Um, so we had dinner. By the time we finished dinner, it was then 9:30 at night, and our hotel was in White, or not hotel. It was a KOA campground because we were going to camp for the night. It was in Whitefish, and I looked at Google Maps, and Google Maps says it was maybe an hour and a half to Whitefish. So okay, we can do that. So we get on the bike and we start going, and we get to Kiowa, I think is the name of it, Kiowa, and it tells me to turn right, and I do, and it's this. I had to write some notes. I was looking at this today. Highway 49, also known as Looking Glass Road. Watch the video for Looking Glass Road. There's a couple of them on YouTube. I just did that for the first time today to see what it was that I did. The first red flag that came up, again, by now it's 10 o'clock, 10:30 at night, pitch black. As you turn onto this Looking Glass Road or Highway 49, there's a big side, primitive road, motorcycles advised not to travel. It's like, oh crap. And I had no idea where we were really. Again, this was a Google Map thing. We had no signal at that point. So it was either follow this or try to figure out where in the heck Whitefish is from here. So it's like, Jacob, I don't know what we're going to be doing here, but you need to keep an eye out for wildlife. Because, we're in moose territory. We're in, I don't know what all territory. We might get eaten by wolves as far as I know. So I start this road, and it is, oh man, I need to go back there during the daylight because the video that I saw today was amazing. The views are stunning of the Cascades, but it is curve after curve after curve going up on this ridge.
Well, that'd be the Rockies, actually, not the Cascades.
You're right. I'm sorry. Yeah.
No, you're good.
Yep. The Rockies. No guardrails, so it's like going to the sun, and no fence, no stone fence. Yeah, at least going to the Sun Road, you've got that rock wall. This had nothing there at all. And these are 15-mile-an-hour corners, 20-mile-an-hour corners. And it's only like 14 miles long, but it was 14 of the most terrifying miles that I've ever ridden. Granted, I had he was 15 maybe at the time. I knew that if anything happened, I'd suffer my wife's wrath. And I even said to him, don't tell your mom about this. We have since. She knows about it, so it's a surprise. But, oh, man, that was terrifying. By the light of the moon, I could see it might have been an 800-foot drop up on this ridge that we were. And, again, no guardrail, no nothing. It was just – and potholes, dodging potholes while going around all of these corners. To get to Highway 2, by – I forget, Glacier Village or something like that. So we didn't get to that KOA until well past midnight. So, and then the next day was great. We went down to Missoula and came home Lula Pass. So we had a good weekend of it. But yeah, it was sheer terror there for a moment. But
that's all part of the adventure. And now you can look back and you got one,
that's one heck of a story. Yeah. Yeah. But if anybody's ever done that Highway 49 or do it in the daylight, don't try to do it at midnight or 10 o'clock at night anyway.
Unless it's a good clear night and you're totally lit up by the moon, maybe it'll help.
Or if you have custom dynamics. I had no custom dynamics at that point.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah. But that was probably one of the dumber ones that I've done. I started to talk about the seasons ride that I have with the Iron Butt. So I found out when I did my fall equinox ride, I decided to do a Bun Burner Gold, which is 1,500 miles in 24 hours on fall equinox, September 21st of a couple years ago. And after I did that ride, I found out that to get the series award, although all the rides had to be the same length. And my other two rides at that point were 1,000-mile rides. So it's like, oh, great. So now I've got a 1500 and I've got 2000. So I kind of messed up the series. So then I finally finished the 1,000-mile series. Now I've got one 1,500-mile to start the next series over for the bun burners. So last year, not 22, but 2021, I attempted a bun burner gold on winter solstice, and to do the winter solstice ride, you have to be riding at some point on December 21st. So on December 20th, about 9 o'clock at night, I left. I knew that none of the mountain passes here were going to be passable. They all had snow on them. Yakima was expecting freezing rain during the night, starting at about 10:30. So I figured if I got to jump on it at 9, I'd be safe. My plan was to go over to Pendleton, Oregon, and then do Interstate 84 to Hood River, back to Pendleton, and then back to Yakima again, which would have put me late enough that the freezing rain would have been gone, and it was supposed to warm up a little bit, supposed to. So I got to did everything great. I got to Pendleton, started back to Yakima again on my first leg of the journey, and the weather had changed unbeknownst to me. And by the time I got into Kennewick, it was snowing, sleeting. From Kennewick back to Yakima is 80 miles. Trucks were passing me, throwing slush and snow at me. I got into Yakima and the roads were frozen solid. I decided at that point, I'm aborting the ride. I just now had to get home. And every time I would stop the bike at a red light or something in town, I would slip and slide on the way. Oh man, I was lucky to have made it home. That by far was the dumbest ride that I've ever done. Had I stayed in, supposed to be warm, yeah, absolutely. Had I just stayed in Oregon, Interstate 84 was great. I could have just kept going back and forth from Hood River to Pendleton and Hood River to Pendleton, kept doing that. And then in the daylight hours, because again, it's a 24-hour ride, I could have made it back to Yakima and it would have all melted by then. But yeah. So I got to, our hog chapter has a thing called, our hog director calls them Rainiers and St. Helens. So if you're familiar with Washington State, we have a volcano here that erupted, Mount St. Helens. We've got a beautiful volcano called Mount Rainier that is just majestic and beautiful. So the Rainiers are the great things and the nice stories, and the St. Helens are the things that blow up in your face. So I got to talk about that ride as blowing up in my face. So our hog chapter kind of shakes their head at me sometimes. Just a crazy guy. But I ride my ride.
That's right.
Luckily, I've survived so far, including my second to the last iron butt ago, the Saturday after Thanksgiving. Michael Nielsen, Two Wheels to Survive, talked about it a little bit when he was on a couple mileposts ago, where I was riding in what should have been a safe environment. It was 44 degrees out. However, frozen roads tend to stay frozen in those temperatures in the shade, I found out. So down I went. The bike slides about 20 feet straight, and I slide about 20. Luckily, the semi behind me didn't run over me, but that was near Klamath Falls, Oregon, about 400 miles into my 1,300-mile day that day. I got up and I rode 900 more miles after it. I was able to pick the bike up. The insurance is paying, I think it's up to $4,800 on the damage on my bike to fix it right now. But got to say kudos to Harley-Davidson Insurance, because I had the first check made out within a week after the crash, before the local Harley dealership hadn't even seen the bike yet. The check was here. I took it to the dealership. The two Harley mechanics here locally were, one had knee replaced and the other one was on paternity leave. So they didn't have a Harley mechanic until the first week of January. And that's when they finally did the insurance estimate, the official estimate. So within a week after the official estimate, which came in obviously higher than Harley's estimate, they got the other check, and right now the parts are all on order. So none of the repairs have been done, but the bike is fully rideable. It's all cosmetic. So, yep. Springer Mike, weather in Pacific Northwest is definitely got its own agenda. So
It does.
but we do dumb things. By the grace of God, we survive them, hopefully. But so far, so good. New Year's Day, for those of you that are Harley owner group people, if you belong to Hog, one of the 10 rides for 23 locations is 20 miles from where I live. It's the Teapot Dome in Zillow, Washington. So if you're coming out to take your picture at the Teapot Dome, hit me up. But I wanted to be the first guy in the nation to get the picture there. So I woke up, I think I left my house a little after 5 in the morning that morning. Beautiful, sunny, well, clear morning. It wasn't sunny because it was still dark. It was clear when I left the house. And then I get through a place called Union Gap, which is a gap in Rattlesnake Ridge here in Yakima, Washington. And I get into the lower Yakima Valley, or the Yakima Valley anyway, and it's freezing fog for the next 15 miles. So yeah, I'm turn on my flashers. I'm going 40 miles an hour on the interstate. I get passed by three Washington State Patrol, one sheriff, and one city police officer while I'm doing this ride. They must have thought I was an idiot. As far as everybody else is concerned, they knew I was an idiot. Law enforcement didn't care. They just let me be. But that whole ride, when I got back, I took a picture of my bike. You can see it on my Instagram. If you go back a few, it was just covered with ice.
I remember your soft lowers were like frozen. You could see
Or
all the ice hanging off them.
the windshield,
insane.
yeah. So I did not lose grip once. I mean, I never lost traction until I turned into the parking lot of the Teapot. They've got some cobblestone out in front of it, and that cobblestone was frozen. So as I made that little corner, I slipped a little bit, but it's like a 2 feet swatch of cobblestone. But anyway, yeah, some of the dumb things. Then there are some good things. I've done some safe rides too. Yeah, I did a 7,700 mile trip last summer.
That had to been a lot of fun. You got to tell that. I got to throw some wood in the fire while you
All
tell
right.
stories.
Well, I do this thing every year. Well, they've only done it 2 years, but it's called the Hogback Twister Challenge. If you've never heard of it, look it up, please. It is awesome. There's a whiskey distillery in Boulder, Colorado that puts this event on. It covers 9 canyons in the Rocky Mountains. It's near Rocky Mountain National Park as well. But it's a 350 mile, call it a course, but it's these 9 canyons that you go in and out of. If you do the challenge in under 9 hours, you get the t-shirt, you get the certificate and everything. So I've done it the last 2 years. Last year, I invited my brother that lives in North Carolina. I wanted to see if he would meet me there, and he surprised me and said he would meet me there. So we started making plans. Okay, do we just meet in Boulder, or I could meet you in Amarillo? Because he told me his plan. He was going to stop at a couple places. One of them was Amarillo, Texas. So kind of in my head, I was like, well, I could meet him in Amarillo, or what if I just go all the way to Winston-Salem and just ride with him? So that's what I planned on doing. So I left here, did an iron butt to Casper, Wyoming, and I did that Denver because of your trip going through the Grand Tetons. So you talked
about so freaking amazing.
Yeah,
was that the first time you'd been through them?
I had never been there before.
Oh, okay, awesome.
So yeah, I got to Jackson Hole just as the Harley dealership was. I think they were closing in about a half an hour, so I got there just before I collect Harley poker chips and the dealer photo check-ins and stuff like that. So I got to Jackson Hole, and then that Grand Teton from there to Casper was just glorious. It was fantastic. What struck me that you've never talked about, at least I've never heard you talk about, was the the flashing DOT signs from, I think it was Wyoming at that point. I think I was already in Wyoming. Don't stop to look at the bears, keep going, something like that. If you're in, do not get out of your vehicle around the bears or something like that. It's like, well, I'm not in a vehicle, I'm on a motorcycle, what if a bear comes? So that was a little bit, worrisome. But.
Well, and the other comical one, which I'm sure you understand now, is like Hayden and I, we were coming down. I think we'd already went through Jackson Hole. We're heading south through part of the Yellowstone Valley, and all of a sudden came upon herd of buffalo everywhere. I mean, people are out of their cars looking at them, and I'd seen one. We're coming into a corner, and there's one behind a tree on the right, and I was on the left, Hayden was on the right. And I told him, hey, kind of come wide. I'll swing out. There's a buffalo behind there, and Hayden's like, hey, you want to stop and take a selfie of the buffalo? And I'm not right. I'm
Not
good
so
with
much.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this I
I
think.
see you got your Do Epic shirt hat. Excuse me. And I end up wearing the shirt tonight, so
Yeah, Mile Monsters. Yeah. But that was, I think they called it Teton Pass. I don't know if you did between Casper and Jackson.
Teton Pat, that is steep.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
That was. Yeah. So I spent an overnight. I had a hotel in Casper on this trip to North Carolina. And then I left Casper, and I wanted to hit a couple of Harley spots for the Ride 365. One of them was the Bagnell Dam in Lake of the Ozarks. So that was my next real stop of any importance, but that was only for dinner. I was there about midnight the next night. Still wasn't real tired, so I kept going. I ended up a little bit past St. Louis before I stopped to sleep, and I slept for about 2 hours on a bench outside of a Harley dealership someplace in Illinois. I don't even remember the name of the town.
Great hobo camping.
Yeah. And then I went from there to, I wanted to go to Mammoth Caves because that's another 10 ride for 22 last year. So I did Mammoth Caves, which is only about an hour and a half from Tail of the Dragon. On my previous trip in the car that I talked about, I drove the Tail of the Dragon, and I wanted to do it on the bike now. So I did Tail of the Dragon. Denver alluded to the fact that I like to take pictures while I'm riding. I rode more than half of the Tail of the Dragon one-handed. Now, I don't say that to brag. I do this. I can't even ride my Sportster one-handed like I do the Road King. The Road King just fits me to the point where one-handed corners, I can drag floorboards one-handed, and I did on the Tail of the Dragon. But I was taking pictures of the guys in front of me and behind me, for that matter, because you can turn the phone around. But with my iPhone in my left hand and my hand on the throttle and the front brake, I don't know. I'll shift. I read a couple of YouTube videos where you could shift without the clutch. So I do that pretty frequently, just clunk, and then, upshifting is a lot easier than a downshift if you're going from second to first, but I'll do that so I don't have to use the clutch. So
actually today I was going through some of the videos and pictures trying to make a file to do a little video from when we did Monsters Over Mountains, and I got a bunch of videos. We're coming down off of the backside of Chinook down the switchbacks. There's video. I mean, you're leaning off your bike, taking pictures, and actually have one. Yeah, of us going. Well, actually, the thumbnail for the YouTube video is where I'm coming up next to you on I-90. I'm taking a video of you as you're just riding down, just snapping pictures and not even watching your camera, and just cruising down the road.
Yeah, half of them don't turn out because I'll take a picture of the road or the rocks or something like that. You gotta look at them later, but because I'm not paying attention. But I found out on the iPhone that the volume buttons are the shutter. So once I learned that was amazing. So now you can just snap, 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 snap. So, but once we got up to the lodge there at the top of the Tail of the Dragon, because I did it from the back way. I did it from the Tennessee side up to the North Carolina side, which is going up the mountain, not down the mountain. I found the guys that I was following and said, hey, I don't know if you guys want them, but I took a bunch of pictures of you. And I'm like, really? And one guy had an iPhone, so we did the airdrop. And it ended up getting all these photos. So and then went from there to my brother's house in Lexington, North Carolina. When I got there, I was 80 miles short of a saddle sore 3000, which is 1,000 miles a day for 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
So, but he had been waiting up for me. He had to work the next morning, so I figured it wasn't fair to him to keep him awake for another hour and a half while I did that other 80 miles. So I don't have a saddle sore 3000 yet. I called it good at a 2000 and let him go to bed. So, and then it took me 3 days to get there to North Carolina, and then when we left the day after, I spent one day with him, and then we left. I think I got there on Sunday night. He had to work Monday, and Tuesday we left to go to Boulder. It took us 4 days to get to Boulder. He doesn't quite ride like I do. And we did the Hogback Twister Challenge together, and from there we rode up to Sturgis to Deadwood. So I got to spend more time with my brother on that trip than we'd spent since he left for the Navy in 1978. So that was
And that's awesome right there. I mean, doing something that you guys both enjoy. I mean, obviously, he's got a Harley dealership, enjoys life, enjoys the wheels. You enjoy riding. So, two brothers spending time riding through the country. Man, I don't think you can get better than that.
Yeah. Would you like to see the very first photograph that I ever took while riding a motorcycle? And then
absolutely.
I'll tell you why I did. So that's a friend of mine. His name's Cliff Petch. He's actually a paper sales rep. I work in a print shop. So that's my paper sales rep from West Coast Solutions, WCP Solutions. I took that picture on Highway 95 after he and I went to Street Vibrations. We're coming up Highway 95 between like Winnemucca and Nampa, Idaho. And I thought, man, that's a cool picture. I should make it into a logo. So if you've ever seen my Watch Out logo, watch out.
There we go.
If you can see the comparison, my logo is my buddy Cliff.
Hey, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Your very first picture.
Sorry for you people listening to this podcast later on stream, but yeah. And then I turned it into like Share the Road. So that's there it is. There's my Watch Out shirt here, which is a whole nother story. I thought it would be cool. That's how I got involved on Instagram, was thinking that I could make some money selling decals and t-shirts, and that was a magnificent failure. But and then I thought, watch out for us, not just motorcycles, but why not runners, bicyclists?
And the other thing everybody watching is his stickers. I have some, so I know they're reflective. They reflect light, so at night it is actually adding more visibility. You can put them on your bike, or even like his t-shirt. I have one of his t-shirts, and they are reflective, so they do reflect light back, helping keep yourself more visible at night.
That was my whole deal. Is I had a website at one time because I thought it was going to be a cool idea, and I thought I could sell some things, and I did some Facebook and some Instagram marketing on it, and sold one shirt. These shirts, because of the reflective ink, cost me like $22 a piece, so I had to sell them for $30, and I didn't sell any. So I've got a couple thousand. My brother threw me a bone and bought $500 worth of shirts from me so he could sell them at his dealership, and they didn't sell well for him either because he had to sell them for $40 to make any money. And yeah. So yeah, it was a learning experience, and I keep giving them away now, just to eliminate a few of the boxes downstairs in my basement. But anyway, I thought it was a cool idea. I kept thinking, you as a trucker, watch out for trucks. That logo.
Oh yeah.
Thing you wanted. Watch out for dog walkers. I could have done anything I wanted, but
absolutely,
it didn't work out. But.
Now the newest little motorcycle thing that you've got going on is you've done gotten inspired and signed up for the 2024 Hoka Hey. You put in your application, I
I
should say.
did. Yeah. The story behind that is I've always heard about the Hoka Hey. You know, I follow like Riot and Hopper and Ken Andrews and Twister and all of those people that are just amazing writers. And they've always talked about the Hoka Hey. In my head, it's like, wow, that's insane. You know, good for you. Um, but I was at a Harley owner group regional officer connection in Portland, Oregon, the beginning of January. Was sitting at lunch. At the table, there was a guy a little bit older than me sitting across from me. We were talking about long distance riding and iron butts. He's like, "So how many iron butts do you have?" At that time, I had 21. Last Friday, I did number 22, so I'm up to 22 certified rides. But the guy's name was Greg Laird, I think it was, from Portland, and he said he stopped counting when he got to about 40. He still does them, but he doesn't certify them anymore. And I did the Hoka Hey too, and it's like, wait a minute, you did the Hoka Hey? And he said, yeah. I was in the first two Hoka Heys. So the Hoka Hey started in 2010, 2011. So Greg actually did the first two runnings. He did 10 and 11.
So well, what, 10 and 12?
No, because back then that was every year.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah, he did 10 and 11. And that just opened up. I've never met anybody in person that did it. Again, I have friends, likes on Facebook and Instagram, social media, but I'd never actually spoken to anybody in person that was a member of that community. So I was like a little kid at his feet at that point. It's like, how did you do it? You know, what was it? You know, how could you afford it? First of all, because I know it's pretty expensive. And he was like, well, I just talked to my boss and they paid my entry fee. And that got my head spinning because I'm not a proud man. I have no problems. I do a lot of fun charity riding.
Well, and then not to, on a side note, I got to say, just where you're at right now, your boss and the place you work for, Abbott's Printing, was so amazing with the support when did Monsters Over Mountains. Our flyers, the banners, the stickers, I mean, helping design the logo. What they did was absolutely amazing. And I mean, I still can't thank them enough for their support and everything they did. Plus, you know, their donation to it. I think, you know, you work for an amazing company, and
yeah,
I just, you know, again, wanted to give them some props because what they did was absolutely awesome for Monsters Over Mountains, and the support was amazing.
I agree wholeheartedly. Yeah, they are good people. And cut to the Hoka Hey challenge. After talking with Greg, the idea started stirring in my head that I could talk to Steve and Kathy Noble own Abbott's, about maybe sponsoring me for the Hoka Hey event. So I got back to work the next week and I asked if they would go to lunch with me, and they agreed. So we went to lunch and I explained the Hoka Hey, what it was all about. And Steve's like, well, how are we involved? And Kathy's like, I think we're paying for something. And I was like, well, there is this. I said, to even apply, it's a $750 entry fee, and it's due, the application's open February 1st. And they're like, okay, we're in. Like, really? So that afternoon, as soon as we got back from lunch, I don't think 20 minutes passed and they handed me a check with $750 cash in it. So yeah, they are my corporate sponsor in big time. They know that I'm going to need, 3 to 4 weeks off, August of 24, July, August of 24, if I get accepted. Granted, just my application is in, but as soon as applications were available online, I was sitting at my computer. The second it came online to the email that I got that everything had been received was 13 minutes. So I don't know if I was one of the first, but it didn't take long. So it took 13 minutes from the release of the application online to my confirmation that I'd been in my application and payment was received. So I'm a little anxious for that. When I bought my Road King, my brand new one, I should say, My 21 Road King last Thursday just had its 75,000 mile service on it. And Eastside Harley-Davidson in Bellevue, Washington needs a shout out, if I may. When I bought that
Absolutely.
bike there, I had looked at it, the same bike, at two other dealerships. My home dealership here, I'm a member of Yakima Hog, Wenatchee Hog. Those two hog chapters are sponsored by, it's now called Apple State Harley here in Yakima. Yesterday, I just joined Rattlesnake Mountain Hog, which is 80 miles away in Kennewick, Washington. So I'm actually a member of three different hog chapters. But I had the same bike quoted by those other two dealerships. And when I went to look at the Road King, they didn't even have the Road King, but I went to Eastside when I was looking at the Road King at the other two dealerships and noticed that they had a March 2021 special that if you bought any new bike, you could either get free maintenance for 3 years or an engine upgrade. I was like, what do you mean free maintenance? They're like, well, we call it a platinum priority service. And it is literally every scheduled maintenance in the manual for unlimited miles for 3 years. I'm like, what's the catch? What do you mean the catch? There is no catch. So I called my brother because my brother was also trying to sell me a bike at the same time. I said, have you ever heard of that? And he said, well, we sell a plan, but it's not unlimited mileage. It's like five. I don't remember what his is. Rattlesnake has, you can buy 6 or 12 services, but nobody had anything that was similar to the unlimited services. And at that time, I think in 21, I had ridden 32,000 miles that year or something. And that's a lot of service. So my brother said, if they're going to drop their pants for you like that, take them. So I ended up buying my Road King there. They gave me the 3 years service, a 5-year ESP with tire and wheel, and saved me $500 over the other two dealerships.
That's
So
impressive.
when I went there Thursday, that was the 15th time I've been there for service in 2 years. My bike is 2 years old next month. I had to pay for one oil change when I went to North Carolina. My brother charged me for an oil change.
Take him
and,
off the Christmas list. Jeez.
and really, so yeah, that was the 15th service that I did there. And that includes, again, every scheduled maintenance. So it included the fork service at 50,000. It includes changing spark plugs every 40. And my bike, you have to take off the fuel tank to get to the spark plug. So when they do the 40Ks, it's a $900 service. My service last Thursday included both master cylinder flushes. So, it's been amazing. And to do that service, I live 150 miles away from that dealership, and I have to do it at that dealership, which is no big deal. It's just an extra 2-hour ride for me. Well, 4 hours round trip. But I was looking at Snoqualmie Pass report on the Washington State Department of Transportation app that I have, and it looked clear. The road, they have cameras up there so you can see. It was a beautiful day on the pass. So it was noon on Thursday, and I called the service manager. He's like, looks like I could make it over today. Can you squeeze me in? He said, yep, come on over. So 3 hours later, I was in their service bay getting my bike serviced. So, yeah. So Eastside Harley-Davidson, Bellevue, Washington, Platinum Priority Service. If you ride, do it, man. It's awesome. So that's what allows me to put on the miles that I do. So 40,000 plus last year. I couldn't do it if I had to pay for all my service. And again, I'm not going to do my own. I don't want to strip my oil plug again. But anyway.
That's the only dealership in Washington that I haven't been to. I've never
Really?
been to Eastside yet. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been to all the other ones, just not them yet. I drove by it a bunch of times for work, going up
Yeah.
405, but I've never stopped there yet.
They're great. They have
I've heard
treated
great
me.
things about them.
They have treated me. I don't spend much. I do buy tires. My bike, the clutch went out at 30,000 miles for whatever reason, so I had to pay for that. I've done some warranty work there, so I have spent some money there, but I don't spend a dime. Like my service the other day would have been $800-900, and it cost me nothing. So
That has got to be nice.
yeah, Yeah. Unfortunately, that expires a year from now, but I don't know what I'm going to do. Just before the Hoka my free service expires. Oh, the reason I started talking about them, I had told them that I had applied for the Hoka, and the service manager talked to the other managers in the store, and they've committed to donating a rear tire for me for the Hoka. So,
Hey, that's awesome.
yeah. So they're another one of my sponsors. So, and
Sweet.
I'll be talking to my local dealership, and
No, that'd
that's
be
the
awesome.
only way that ride's possible is with some help. I talked to, maybe I shouldn't say this, but I will because it might help somebody else if you're interested in doing the Hoka. And I don't even know if it's going to happen. It's a nice dream, but my local fuel supplier is Circle K. I love Circle K. They have a ethanol free that I use that I get better gas mileage than anything else. So right after I decided that I was going to apply for the Circle K, I ended up getting help by the manager there at the local place that I always frequent. And I asked her, does Circle K ever do any charitable donations of fuel for, and I explained the Hoka, and it's a charity ride. And she said, that sounds like a fantastic idea. If you get in, give me a letter and I'll take it to corporate for you. I said, well, cool. But, a
Nice.
lot of this ride is going to be in Canada. Do you have any stations in Canada? She said, man, we're a Canadian company. So wouldn't that be cool
Oh,
to have
absolutely.
little help from Circle K buddies? So
I mean,
you
when you're
never
on
know.
a 10 to 15,000 mile adventure in a 10 to 14 day window,
Yeah.
you're going to be burning some fuel. And man, if they could help you out, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. Granted, I couldn't go to every fuel stop at a Circle K, but
Yeah, I mean,
from
say
here
if
to
you can get
Daytona, I
50%
certainly
of
could.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So might just be a pipe dream, but got to have a dream, man.
Hey, every bit helps. And what's the worst thing that somebody can say is no. It's, I kind of, in a way, like doing this. I mean, I've sent, you know, messages to people, requests, and what's the worst somebody can say is no, I'm not interested. Hey, cool, thank you for your time, but you never know until you try.
Yeah. You don't ask, you get nothing. So, and like I said,
Yep.
I'm not a proud man. I'll ask. Um, from Monsters Over Mountains that I brought in a fair chunk of change for that for
Oh,
mom.
absolutely.
So, yeah.
I mean,
I've
we did
got
a
I've got some
very,
nice corporate sponsors.
yeah,
My
we
paper
raised a
salesman,
good
Cliff.
chunk of change for that.
Yeah, Cliff and his company is already they've committed to I think it's like $350 of my travel expenses. So my hog chapters have said they'll have fundraisers. The local dealership will have fundraiser for me. So yeah. So it's all
No,
good.
that'd be
I even have
super
an
cool.
idea that I talked to you, Denver, about is raffling off, not raffling, but I have no tattoos. I have no ink on my body at all. And being a mile monster number 51, by the way, doing the mile monster logo somewhere on my body, if I raise enough money for it, I'm willing to
Heck
do
yeah.
whatever. Like Riot, cutting his hair. If he raises enough money, he'll do whatever. So,
Yeah. Yeah, see, I'm my Monster 49.
oh man, you got in before me.
It's an awesome organization.
It is, and that has kind of changed my focus a little bit. I used to do back in 1919, my second Iron Butt ride. I organized a charity ride with the local hog chapter. 9 of us did an event called Ride for Your Cause. That was my big thing. I organized it. I named it. I used that. That's actually how this logo came out. It was Ride for Your with the motorcycle in the Your. So with Cliff in the Your. Um, I 9 of us rode to Copper Canyon Harley-Davidson in Butte. I think it's Butte, Montana, and back. 2 of us, my buddy Malcolm from the local hog chapter, and I ride all over the place. We've done to Vegas. We've done the Pacific Coast Highway during COVID. We did that trip together with my son Jacob. Went on that one with us, but Malcolm and I decided to turn it into a yeah, Michael. Sorry. So yeah, well, we're in between. Michael's number 53. but Malcolm and I ended up turning it into a bun burner standard. So we went from Butte down to almost Salt Lake, and then we ended up just east of Boise for the night. That was like our 1,000-mile mark. So we got the saddle sore. We did a nested ride. So we got the saddle sore and then the bun burn, like we did on Monsters Over Mountains.
Mm-hmm.
But the 9 of us raised over $5,000, I think it was. And Ride for Your Cause was, we had 5 different charities that the local hog chapter dealt with frequently. And each rider that did it could designate where their funds went. It was kind of like a ride-a-thon type thing. People donated per mile, per hour, per whatever. Your Hoka Hay number. Hey, Michael. Michael helped me out to when I decided to apply for the Hoka Hay. He's still helping me now to help figure out some of the dynamics of doing that. But I messaged Michael on Facebook Messenger, and he ended up having a conversation with me at pretty good length. So thank you for that, Michael. Anyway, wrong way. But the Ride for Your Cause. So every rider could choose where their funds went. So we had 5 different charities, and the $5,000 was split between those 5 charities. And then I kept doing that event for every year after that. And last year, when I heard about you and Michael Nielsen were planning the what was it called? The Monsters Take the Cascades ride.
Yeah, I think that was the original name we came up with. And then
I was like, wow, I could turn my Ride for Your Cause and just change it over to Monsters Over Mountains. So I ended up contacting you and tagged onto that ride, and
actually the Monsters Over Mountains name I really like. So that was a great point too.
Yeah, that was I like that too.
It was a lot of fun.
Can I say that was my idea? Too late.
Sure.
I did. Once I got on board with the ride, I kind of steered myself into helping plan a lot of the marketing around that.
And it was greatly appreciated. I mean, the help and everything that, between you and, of course, with Abbott's Printing behind you. I mean, we did a great thing, and a lot of it was. I mean, you definitely did a lot to help out, and it was greatly appreciated. And
I had fun doing it.
I had a lot of fun doing the ride. It was quite the adventure.
Yeah. Do you know what our final total was that we raised?
I believe it was around 7,000.
Nice. Okay, good. Yeah. And that was awesome. For me to
camping like hobos at 2 a.m. in Arlington, Oregon, and some city
park
parking
stupid gas station was closed. Whoever heard of a gas station not having 24-hour pumps? The pumps
that's why I stopped 10 miles before at the truck stop and got fuel.
I mean, it was stupid. So yeah.
Well, I know, like me, I'd hit that 1,000. I looked down, I'm at 1,014. All of a sudden, see truck stop. Well, I'm gonna get fuel because I know I'm low on fuel. So yeah, me, Milkweed stopped. Everybody else kept going. I'm like, I need fuel, and it's right here. I'm gonna stop.
And the story is, we stopped at this fuel station in Arlington. We couldn't get any gas there because their pumps were turned off. They didn't open until 7 a.m, and we needed to leave earlier than that because we were on a time crunch to make the 36-hour time frame that we had. So the next gas station was in Rufus, Oregon, 25 miles away or so.
Yeah.
And a couple of us were on fumes. I had a 1-gallon gas can. So I gave half of it to Colin? No, Brad. Half of it to Brad, because Brad and Colin were like just right on, or Brad was riding right on Colin's tail.
Oh yeah, he was drafting Milkweed. He was like 2 feet off the back of Milkweed, using him as a windbreak.
Yeah. And then I kept the other one in reserve in case somebody else needed it. And then 2 miles before Rufus, I ran out of gas, and I ended up needing my own gas. So
I got video of that too.
Yeah, you were the one behind me, right?
Yeah, I was following just to make sure.
Yeah. So luckily that half a gallon got me the 2 miles I needed. So yeah, that was embarrassing. I'm the one guy that ran out of fuel.
Well, Brad actually ran out pulling into the pumps.
Yeah, but that's different than running out
Yeah,
2 miles before the pump.
this is true.
And I thought maybe I could coast because it was a little downhill, and I coasted as far as I could. And she ain't going any further. But luckily, I had that extra. I kept some gas for myself, so that would have been bad otherwise. But
Yeah,
that
the
was
little
amazing,
reserve
right?
cans are pay off when you need them.
And then once we got back to your place, well, there's a lot happened between going up I-5. I think I kind of impressed Milkweed weaving in and out of traffic on I-5. That was fun.
Oh, I think there were some times. I mean, I don't remember. Might have been Chinook or Stevens getting
See,
with it, and then well, actually, it was 101 by coming up the coast by Amanda Park. Some car decided they're going to pass us, and Milkweed's like, That 2-lane coming up from God, what? That might have been the Hoe. I can't remember which river it was that we crossed.
but I was the oldest guy by what? You were the second? Because I was 57 last year, or I just turned 58 maybe.
Yeah, because your birthday was just like within days of it.
Yeah. Or the day after. It was the day after I got back. It was
Okay.
Monday. We finished the ride on Sunday. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was the oldest guy by 10 years maybe.
Yeah, because I'm 44
Oh, by longer than that.
for another 6 weeks.
Yeah. That's why Milkweed called me Old Man Frank. So I wore that badge proudly there. But I kept up with the youngins.
Oh, most definitely. I
On
was.
my first hogback twister challenge, I hooked up with some 40-something and 30-something-year-olds that were just cruising. And I surprised the heck out of them, too, by keeping up with them on these twisties going through the Colorado Rockies, one-handed taking pictures. And when we get to lunch, I'm like, hey, do you guys want some pictures? I'll FaceTime them, or not FaceTime them, but Apple Share, whatever that is. Yeah. AirDrop, thank you. I'll send you the pictures. And they're like, what, do you have a GoPro? It's like, no, I took them with my iPhone. And the guy that I was following, the guy that directly in front of me said, yeah, I'm white knuckling on these corners and this guy's one-handed behind me. It's like, yeah, well, that's what I do. In the hog chapters, Wenatchee and Yakima, I'm activities officer in the Yakima chapter. And I was the photographer. I'm the backup photographer now. And I'm also the photographer in the Wenatchee chapter. So when I go on rides with the hog chapters, I'm the guy, taking pictures. And like Denver said, I'm leaning off and I'm, reaching out as far as I can to take pictures around the corners. So.
Now, do you actually have a lanyard on your phone by chance? It just
No,
wraps around your wrist? No?
No.
Wow, that's impressive.
I've never dropped the phone. I've had a phone fall off the bike before, but I had it propped up in the windshield and it just bounced off. I was doing 78 miles an hour near Sunnyside, Washington, and the phone bounced off the bike. I was able to go back and recover the phone. The phone works to this day. I've replaced it. I've got a new phone. This was like an iPhone 9 or 8. I use it as my iPod now. So it's cracked. The screen's broken. But I use a Griffin Survivor case on it, and that Griffin Survivor saved the phone. I actually wrote an email to the company to tell them, I know you don't test it under these conditions, but it survived. So it was awesome.
I did.
They didn't send me a new one or anything, but
yeah, of course not.
It was a good testimony.
Hey, that's what matters. The product worked, and you tested it and put it through the paces.
They tested dropping it like 30 feet or something like that, But yeah, I've tested it by dropping it off a motorcycle at 78 miles an hour onto the highway. They could put that in their advertising.
I was following a friend once on his Ultra Classic, and this is back in the old flip phone days, but his charger cord was so tight to plug in, I could see his hand going out down the highway. It's like, what the hell is he doing? And about the third time he stopped, I got him next to him, was like, what the hell is that? He's like, my phone fell off, was bouncing off the highway. He goes, I'm trying to grab it. Still connected to the charger cord.
Oh, that's a good cord then.
The cord never came out, but yeah, his phone was pretty cheese grated, but it's like,
yeah,
damn.
I think mine would have come out of the charger at that point. But anyway.
Yeah. So Well, shoot,
What
Frank, man,
else?
it's been a lot of fun. I've enjoyed
Yeah,
this.
yeah. It was. I don't know what I was worried about.
Exactly. Once you start talking to me, it's just having fun sharing stories.
Yeah, you can't get me to shut up about motorcycles, but
And that's
yeah,
exactly perfect.
yeah. I ride. It's pretty much changed my life. Again, going back to my family, my wife is pretty much a motorcycle widow. I know she feels that way. Um, I try to temper my motorcycle riding. So if I ride weekend after weekend, then I try to do a car trip with her. Um, my involvement with Mile Monsters has been pretty intense, and I know she. I want her to get a sense for what Mile Monsters means to me. So August 11th, Mile Monsters is having a huge party in Sturgis or in Rapid
Yep.
City anyway. That's the culmination of the Monster 100. So for those of you that haven't heard about the Monster 100, 2 years ago, Chris Hopper did 100,000 miles in 100 days, raised $100,000 for Mile Monsters.
Actually, I think actually
100
came out
plus.
now was almost 170
Okay, yeah.
is what
So
I'd heard. I think that was from
his
Ken
goal was
Anderson.
100 grand,
Yeah.
but he rode by himself 100,000 miles in 100 days. So Renee, Craig's wife from Wild Ass,
Mm-hmm.
came up with the idea, presented it to Riot from Mile Monsters. Why don't you do 100 different people, 100 or 1,000 miles a day, which was a fantastic idea. So when Riot from Mile Monsters put that out, um, that filled up in what was it, like 48 hours,
Yeah,
something like
48 or 50 hours. It was full.
that? Yeah. So 100 people or fewer than that, because I signed up for 2 days, but 100 people or less filled up those 100-day slots. So they thought, wow, let's do another 100. So now it's 200 people doing 1,000-mile rides for 100 days straight. The final day is August 11th, finishing with Chris Hopper ending in Rapid City. They're doing a huge party. We primarily deal with four of the Fab Four. Gavin, Drew, Alfie, and Turbo are the four boys with Duchenne muscular dystrophy. Um, Alfie lives in Northern Ireland, so he won't be there. But the other three families, the boys and their families, will be
Mm-hmm.
in Sturgis at this party. So again, my wife won't ride. She won't have anything to do with a motorcycle. So for me to get her to do anything, it's a car trip. So I told her if she'll come with me, we'll drive. We'll go to Sturgis. I would like her to see what it is we do. So we are driving. I found a hotel in
Awesome.
Rapid City for $79 a night. I did that in
Oh, shit.
November. As soon as I heard about the party, I was like, okay, I'm going to make the reservation. Then I'll see if my
Perfect.
wife would go. If not, then it's a motorcycle trip. But my wife agreed that she'd rather be part of something than nothing. So my
No,
wife,
that's awesome.
my son Jacob, and I will be driving to Sturgis and or to Rapid City anyway for that party, so she can meet the people. So I can meet the people. I've never met Riot personally. I've never met anybody personally. I don't think you have either. You've
Yeah,
met
I
him.
have. Because I was over there
Oh,
for the
that's right.
start
You
of
went to the
Okay.
Okay Hey Start
Yep.
last year. That's right.
Yeah, so I got to meet, Hopper and Twister, Riot, Craig. I mean,
Yeah,
uh, there's
I've
so
met
many
Craig.
people I got to meet, and I believe I met Michael. But I mean, I forgot some of the people. There were so many people there, and it's like overwhelming. And looking at people's stuff, and you start looking at some of these bikes how they got set up, and it's like the old kid in the candy store. It's like, man, this is just awesome. And seeing how people set their stuff up for because it's such an amazing ride,
Yeah,
and seeing how everybody's different. They have them set up for different aspects of what fits them, and seeing everybody set up and. Man, it was a lot of fun, and of course, I ended up being stuck there all day because my bike was broken. But
yeah, I remember
it
that.
was awesome.
Yeah, I met Craig last year at Sturgis because I mentioned that I had to get my oil changed in North Carolina at my brother's dealership, and his service tech didn't realize my Wild Ass was sitting on the passenger on the back seat of my bike because I don't keep it strapped on. I'm worried about somebody cutting the straps and stealing the thing, so
Mm-hmm.
I put it there and then I put it in my saddlebag. In this particular case, I laid it on the back seat, and the guy didn't realize it was there, and he went out for the test ride after the oil change, and it blew off, and he never did find it. So my brother ended up buying me another wild ass. I had called you for Craig's number to make sure that Craig was
Yeah.
going to be there early because we were going to be there the week before. And so I actually got to meet Craig and Renee, and I forget the other lady that works.
Callie.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, so Craig's the one Hoka Hey guy that I have met before I met Greg at this.
They're super cool. I mean, I probably talk to Craig once a week. He's an awesome guy. I mean, great friend, and they're a lot of fun. Looking forward to hanging out with him when I.
That whole community just impresses the heck out of me. I have plans to go to the Rendezvous in New Mexico in April, or I think it's June. April is the taco run. If I can swing that one, I'd like to go to the taco run in Oklahoma. But if you want to go for a couple little rides with me, let's talk.
Yeah.
Medicine Park, Oklahoma for a taco run. We'll go have a taco, turn around and come home.
1,000 miles for a taco?
That's like 1,300 or no. That one's 1,700 miles from here. The one in New Mexico is only 13. So that's just a day ride, dude.
Yeah. That's what Craig said for his memorial. It's just a day ride.
Yeah. We can do that. That's another one. Yeah. I'd like to do Craig's memorial ride just for the heck of it. But there's a lot of bucket list things. I'd like to do a 4810, which Hoka Hey might take that desire out of me, but
that would be a cool adventure. The 48 and 10 would be really cool.
Yeah. I do the.
Hey, Mike says if we come to the taco run, he has a cabin with an extra bed.
Cool. I might take you up on that, Michael.
Yeah, Michael did. Yeah, we did meet up when we were there.
If the weather can cooperate, I mean, April is kind of iffy, especially going through Utah and going through a couple of the mountains.
April was iffy up here. We were getting snow in April this last year. It's like, you've got to be kidding me.
3 or 4 mountain passes before I get to Utah. So, yeah. So that's kind of, it's tentative at this point.
But it's all fun.
It would be fun.
Yeah, that it would be. So, well, shoot, Frank. Thanks for finally coming on. We've been, working on this for probably over a year, trying to figure out schedules and correlate and do this, man. I'm really glad that we finally got to sit down and do a milepost.
Yeah, it's been enjoyable.
Because you've surely passed plenty of mileposts, and what's funny, I mean, I can know a couple times where we've literally passed on the highway.
That's right. I forgot about. I went for a ride with my hog chapter director and his son to the Olympic National Park to Hurricane Ridge, which is 3 miles from your place?
Yeah.
Hurricane Ridge is, it's 20 miles
up
to get up
to the Olympics, yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, you have to go right by my house.
Yeah. Yeah. And I remember you saying that you thought you passed me as we were leaving. So
yeah. And I remember there was one other time you were doing an early ride, and I think I passed you by Hood Canal at like 5 a.m.
Sounds like me.
Yeah.
I do a lot of early morning rides. So I go to work at, sorry, I'm prolonging this a little bit, but
no, you're fine.
People wonder how I get so many miles and I work full time. I start work at 6 a.m, but I'll leave the house at 3:30 and ride 100 miles before work. So that's kind of what I do during the summer. So,
well, it's like for some of mine, like when I did my first, not iron, but my ride 1K in a day, I left at 3:30 in the morning because I would rather ride areas that I'm very familiar with in the dark and give myself more daylight for riding areas that I'm not familiar with that I haven't ridden. So for me, if I'm doing some of these long rides, like I would rather leave early and give myself more daylight in the areas that I'm not familiar with. That's just, my philosophy and how I like to do it. Yeah. I like to leave early.
I'll do we call it the 3-pass ride, which is White Pass, Cayuse Pass, Chinook Pass. Mm-hmm. It's a 150-mile loop over some of the most beautiful areas of the Pacific Northwest.
Especially do it backwards. Go White's Pass to Cayuse, then go up the backside of Chinook, up them switchbacks. Just beautiful.
I do it both ways, but I'll do that after work. Leave work at 4:30, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock sometimes in the summer, especially if it's 102, 103 degrees here. It's 80 up there, just to cool off. So,
yeah,
it's
nice
a
cool off ride.
2.5 hour, 3 hour ride. So, but that's how I get so many miles. It's not all iron butt stuff. It's just a lot of short stuff, but a lot of short stuff. So, Anyway,
A lot of just having fun riding.
yeah, just prioritizing, and I'll do that so that I can get home early enough, to be home for dinner. And yeah, so that way
The important stuff.
it's not
Food.
my wife doesn't quite notice it at that point. So anyway, but yeah,
There
this has
you
been
go.
fun. Thanks for
No,
having
it
me.
has been. Oh, absolutely, man. I'm glad. Honestly, I'm really glad we finally did to get this set up because it's been a long time coming, and you're a guy that does plenty of riding. I know you have plenty of stories, and the bit of riding I've got to do with you. It's a lot of fun. Enjoy your company and camaraderie and your support for all that we do.
Yeah, I'll keep it up. If you want to see some of these pictures that I'm talking about, like tail of the dragon, one-handed, those photos, my Instagram is Watch Out For Us. Facebook is also Watch Out For Us. I have a personal account as well, Frank Orlando, but most of my writing stuff is at Watch Out For Us. So,
And you do some great pictures, that is for sure.
also the Yakima hog and Columbia River hog. Most of the pictures up there, I usually take if it's ride pictures, so you can see the actual hog rides. So
Perfect.
anyway,
Well, right on, man. Well, thank you for your time on this lovely Sunday evening, and hopefully as weather gets better, we can hook up and do some riding.
yep, look forward to it.
Yeah, got some stuff to plan out for us and get ready for a fun, epic summer. Well, thanks, guys. So, everybody, hey, thank you for tuning in to Milepost 92 with Mr. Frank Orlando. So, you guys have fun, stay safe, and enjoy that open road. We will catch you guys next week for Milepost 93 with Dewey Rides. So, until then,
You
stay
guys-
safe, guys. Have fun.